Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me. We are going to talk about stress. I know that we have talked about this before, but I can't think of a better time to readdress this particular subject. And thank you again for doing a great job in the class. And I am concerned about all of you, not just in terms of what's going on with coronavirus and things like that, but please once again know that I am very, very lucky that I have established relationships with some great medical doctors that I speak to every single day in the work that I do. And I know that all of you are studying medicine. So you know, as well as I do, that stress shrinks brain networks. It does actually a number of things to us physiologically. This is simply just one of them. But here's a diagram, a CAT scan, if you will, of what happens to the brain networks during stress. Stress also reduces our immune system. It also can cause ulcers. It also raises blood pressure, interferes with sleep, suppresses appetite. We should eat when we don't. The list goes on and on. So let's talk about this. And I really want you to think about a number of things. All right, okay, number one, this is what stress looks like. That's, just it is a physiological thing. So many of us think it's just emotional. It's just how I feel. It has true physiological consequences. All right. When it comes to the coronavirus, okay, you most likely are going to be okay. Older individuals with a compromised immune systems are going to be more in danger. I understand that. And doctors and the Center for Disease Control have recommended a few things, most of which you have probably already heard. But I really want you to take a look at this right here. Get a flu shot. That is something that I have not thought of that much, but what they said is that, of course, a flu shot is not going to protect you necessarily from getting corona, but it will protect you from the flu. And what happens is when you get corona, God forbid, it reduces your immune system. So therefore, you're more susceptible to the flu. If you get the flu, again, it reduces your immune system. You're more susceptible to get corona. You don't want to get corona and the flu at the same time. So if you are healthy, now if you're sick, there are reasons not to get a flu shot if you are currently sick. Ask your doctor about that. But this is not my opinion. This is straight from the CDC and from doctors. Consider getting a flu shot if you have not done so already. You can get one at a local pharmacy. Pretty cheap. Obviously, keeping your distance from people, keeping your hands clean, and you're going to hear a lot of stuff from politicians. You're going to hear a lot of stuff from the media. You're going to hear a lot of stuff from friends and family. I'm not even asking you to trust everything I say about corona. Go to Google, type in Center for Disease Control. These folks are the number one experts in the world in studying diseases and helping you prevent from getting not just corona, but other illnesses as well. So that's my number one recommendation. Okay, now let's talk about this. So, when it comes to the history of diseases, we've had to deal with this in the United States for quite some time. These are United States statistics. These are not statistics from the world, but let's just talk about the good old US of A. In 1907, we had Typhoid Mary. About 10,000 people died. Polio started in 1916. We had 3,500 deaths over decades, and finally there was a cure that was created, given to America for free, by the way. In the 1980s, we had the AIDS outbreak. That is a higher toll death rate of a lot of diseases, 16,000 people per year. But with the swine flu, 1,000 deaths. With SARS, 774 died. The same thing happened emotionally. I was around when the AIDS outbreak began. I remember how people panicked. I remember how people freaked out. We tend to freak out a great deal when it comes to diseases, when it comes to any kind of change. Today we have corona. So far, there's been 112 deaths in the United States that's been recorded. Of course, I do understand we still do not know exactly how many people have it. or how many people have actually died, but these are the statistics so far. Now, of course, we don't want anybody to die from these diseases. Of course, it is always scary. But the reason I show you this is not to depress you, but to impress upon you that every time there is something like this, America tends to freak out. There seems to be a huge reaction. And of course, we do need to react responsibly. We need to react maturely. We need to react with some common sense. Dr. Stephen Smith, who I speak to every single day, he got into medical school without a bachelor's degree. That's how brilliant he is. He says he is not as concerned about the coronavirus, but he is more concerned about the reaction to it. Of course, he wants people not to get corona and he's treating people and all that sort of business, but he said it is the reaction, the stress, raising the blood pressure, reducing our immune system. That folks need to take a deep breath and realize that most of us are going to be just fine. And for the few that are unfortunate enough to get corona, there are things that we can do. Now, looking at these statistics, with America's freaking out, does it help to freak out? Or take a look at this. Smoking cigarettes kills nearly 500,000 people per year. Drinking kills 88,000 people per year. Alcohol. Car accidents, 37,000 per year. An airplane crash even kills more people per year than some of these diseases. And lightning doesn't kill quite as many, but, a pretty significant, number of people. And we don't seem to freak out about this. It's really psychological if you think about it. We kind of have accepted that these are ways that people die. And there's really, just this kind of acceptance and so forth. And by the way, over 10,000 people die per year with gunshots. And we're beginning to get at least a little bit more concerned about that. This is also daunting. This is also something that we don't like. Of course, we don't want anybody to have to suffer a death because of these reasons, but the reason I talk about these depressing things is to show you the very different emotional reaction we have to it. That we seem to not freak out about these other types of deaths because we're used to it. We're not as used to corona. It's new, it's scary, and it's something we seem to not be able to control, and of course the media is covering it every single minute. That's my next piece of advice. Don't keep watching the media all the time. Again, if you want to know what's going on with corona, you want to see what is happening, Center for Disease Control website, read it for a couple of minutes, do what they suggest, and then go about your day. Move on with life. Stressing about it and worrying about it every minute does not help. I know it's scary. We know our family wants to be all right. But just get the information you need from the CDC and then breathe. Go about your life. Now, do not freak out. Okay? We don't freak out about this, but we do tend to freak out about this. At least we did. We don't really tend to freak out about AIDS anymore. It's awful. It's terrible when somebody has it, but again, we of course have learned how to deal with it, and we eventually figured it out. And most people in the United States who have health care, who have that particular illness, seem to be able to live a good life. Swine flu and SARS killed a number of people. We freaked out, but didn't kill nearly as many people as this, and we don't seem to freak out as much about that. So let's move on. Some people go to self-help books. Is this succeeding? Well, there are over 670,000 books on the self-help Amazon website. There are TV programs on how to reduce stress. There are millions of websites on how to reduce stress. There are pharmaceuticals. You can take pills on how to reduce stress. Let me go back here. So the main thing is this actually helping? Is this something that is actually, reducing stress? Well, what I would suggest you do is anything you do to reduce stress, whether it's a book or a pill or a TV program or looking at a website. We've talked about this before. Make sure it comes from a valid source. If somebody wrote a self-help book, do they have evidence? Do they have proof that it actually has helped people? If somebody says, hey, take this pill, what's the evidence? What's the side effects? You know, you are people of medicine. You are people of science. There are things you can do to reduce stress, which I will talk about here in a second. Having said that, whatever you try, my suggestion is use your common sense. Look at the science, look at the evidence. Does it actually help? All right, these are things that my grandparents did not have to deal with that we do. Number one, they did not have aspirin. They did not have antibiotics. They didn't have refrigerators when they were growing up. They did not have indoor plumbing when they were growing up. They did not have grocery stores when they were growing up. Imagine that. They didn't have any restaurants near where they lived. They did not have electricity. Just look at that so far. And they also went through the Great Depression. These are things that they dealt with, including, different things like polio and typhoid and all these different kinds of diseases as well. And they got through it. And as you can see there, they are happy. We're happy people. So when we start to feel down, when we start to feel rough, do know that your grandparents or great grandparents most likely didn't have any of these things as well. And somehow they got through it. And of course, they did not have the internet and they did not have cell phones. Probably less stress because of it. And by the way, more and more evidence is showing that cell phone use causes more stress, not less. Keep getting pop-ups. Coronavirus this, coronavirus that. Maybe turning our cell phone off for a while. So just remember that maybe certain people in your family had a little bit worse off than yourself. And they also had the Great Depression, as I said. But they got through it. All right, moving on. Facts and figures. Depression has increased since 1991 from 3.3% to 9.1%. 50% of Americans will suffer mental illness in their lifetime. We've talked about that before. Over 80% of Americans are stressed at work. Over 50% of Americans work more than 40 hours a week. America is more overworked than 134 other countries. And we're one of the few countries that doesn't give paid mandatory maternal leave. In Italy, you have to have 5 weeks off minimum. They take an hour and a half for lunch, and you think that they would be less productive than us. The evidence actually shows that they're more productive. They're less stressed. They're rested. When they work, they're more focused. So understanding you are working, you're going to school, you're doing all these things. Todd, I can't do anything about my schedule. When you're not working, when you're not studying, just remember, does it help? I've been working all day, I've been studying, I've had to go to school, I had to do this online class with Todd. Now I'm going to look at Corona. You probably now know everything you need to know about Corona to protect yourself. Relax. Meditate. Exercise in your house a little bit if you can't go to the gym, which we can't right now, according to the LA mayor. Do something to make yourself feel better. And if you're going to use your cell phone, instead of surfing, call someone that you care about. I'm not against cell phones per se. I'm against sometimes what we do with it. You could be looking online about all this information about how horrible the world is, or you could call a friend, call a family member, tell them that you love them. Talk about old times. Call somebody who makes you laugh. Moving on. Oh, and by the way, Americans are no longer the richest middle class citizens in the world. There's a lot of stress out there. Do things to reduce it. More about that later. Okay. We talked about this some. 90% of doctor visits are related to stress. Stress makes us more vulnerable to everything from cancer to the common cold. When stress becomes chronic, it changes your brain function and even the structures down to the level of your DNA. Cortisol is a stress hormone that stays in your system all day long. and 77% report symptoms of stress. So it's out there. Why? We're not doing things to reduce it. This is why this is happening. We just keep adding on to it and adding on to it. We even kind of get addicted to it. All right? 1/3 of adults have high blood pressure and only half get proper treatment. Don't be one of them. Okay. It is public enemy number one according to Psychology Today. All right. Stress decrease profits. I'm not going to read all of these. I'm just going to show you, but just from a cold-hearted business point of view, it hurts the bottom line. Look at what has happened to the Wall Street stocks of the United States because of the coronavirus. Look what's happening to all the businesses now that we can't go out there. Now, I understand that's because of the disease, but Dr. Smith tells me it's also because of our emotional reaction to it. There's a man in Kentucky who has corona. They surrounded his house with the police. And maybe they should, who knows, but not letting him go out. Instead of maybe having a doctor or a nurse wearing, that outfit to protect them from the virus, to sit down and talk with him and reason with him first. Moving on. Oops, sorry, folks. Lack of sleep is your rear neck choke. In martial arts, there's something called a rear neck choke, and it is maybe the worst position that you can be in martial arts. You will get knocked out or beaten up or killed pretty quickly if you do not get out of that particular move in MMA or in jiu-jitsu. So, lack of sleep is your rear neck choke. Stress causes lack of sleep. They've done experiments where people could either, not eat or not have this or not have sleep. People always choose, just please let me sleep. It is the worst kind of torture. So here are things to do to help you sleep. Number one, eat. If you're not eating, even if you don't feel like eating, so many people say, hey, Todd, I don't feel like eating. I feel like, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like it. I understand. Your stress is making you kind of nauseous. Force yourself to eat at least 3 meals a day, good meals. Because if you don't eat, your body won't let you sleep. Caffeine stays in your body for over a day. Please reduce caffeine as much as possible. I know you can't go to the gym, but you can do exercises at home, jumping squats, push-ups, running in place. There's all kinds of videos on YouTube. Good thing about social media is you can look at an exercise video anytime you want. Melatonin, calcium lactate, magnesium chloride, phenibut is a supplement as well. I'm certainly not suggesting you take all of these supplements. What you could do is, if you're having problems sleeping, is try one. First, I would try melatonin. That doesn't work. Then you can try the next one on the list, calcium lactate. Then you can try magnesium chloride. Then you can try phenibut. You can get them on Amazon. Running a fan at night to drown out the noise. When you can, at least vacuum your mattress or get a new one if you think that it is old. Keep social media and your TV and everything away from your bed as much as possible. Clean the house. And finally, Relora. Relora. In bold at the bottom there is the brand name. The scientific name is above it. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. But the National Institute of Health says it reduces cortisol. Talked about this many times in class. Worth repeating. It's all natural. Helps you sleep, also helps you reduce stress. 1 pill per meal. Okay. Now, traditional motivational tactics tend to be boring. We've had personality testing. Oh, your personality is a yellow. Your personality is a blue. The word one backwards is now. You need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. The problem with all this is that it doesn't really address behavior. You need to measure your behavior to reduce stress. How many times am I taking Relora, if that is something I'm going to do? Am I eating 3 meals per day? Am I meditating? Am I calling somebody that I care about? Am I keeping social media away from my bedroom? Measuring behavior is very, very, very effective versus these traditional motivational tactics that make you feel good in the moment, but it doesn't change behavior. It makes a lot of money, but does it really affect your stress? What is motivation? First of all, it's what is it that you're coping with? What is your stressor? Is it school? Is it corona? Is it my psychology class? Is it work? Is it a relationship? Pinpointing what makes you stressed and coping with it, dealing with it directly. Uh, we have to figure out what it is that makes us happy. If a little boy is crying, his mom comforts him. If playing with children makes you feel better than playing with children, comforting somebody, playing with someone, even if it's just hanging out with friends. And I know I talk about good diet, but eat some sugar once in a while. Don't do it every day, but just treat yourself. It's okay to have fun, to be silly. Remember the relationships. Remember that it's okay to treat yourself. There was a guy I know, he was training as a professional boxer. He never, ever, 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 ever even had 1 grain of sugar. But he sometimes didn't do as well because he was too stressed, didn't have any pleasure in his life. It's okay to once in a while just have fun. Monumental moments of your life that you talked about last time. You talked about the big moments of your life, the 7 biggest decisions, and all this kind of stuff. Dr. Elizabeth Thrower, she's a head of educational psychology at University of Montevideo and a proud mother. She does talk about don't feel guilty about taking a night off. Again, if you're a mom or a dad, right now I know you probably want to be around them because of what's going on. But even if you're living in the same house as someone and you're married, you could say, listen, husband, or listen, my lovely wife, if you take care of the kids mostly tonight, I'll take care of the kids mostly tomorrow. Go into the bathroom, run yourself a bath, salt water bath, light some candles, put on some meditation music. Meditation is amazing. Here's a UCLA review on how meditation actually helps our stress. Be sure to eat and continue to have your vitamins. So when I say take a night off, it doesn't mean you go out and about town. We can't right now. But you can just go to the bathroom and, you know, run yourself a hot bath. And even if it's just for an hour, you do it for a while, your husband does it for a while, your wife, or whatever. Just, it's okay. Just relax. Here are the 10 things that you really should look at in terms of your monumental moments of how to reduce stress. You can read. What I want you to do is look at these right now. You've looked at these different kind of success strategies throughout the semester. More than ever, do me a favor right now, choose which one you think would help you the most. This would reduce my stress more than anything else if I could improve in what area. All 10 are important, but choose the one that you think is the most important. Here are some studies that I have done throughout the years. This does work even for businesses. I won't read you and brag about all these statistics, but it works, folks. These strategies are not made up out of my head. This is through research, just to let you know that it does, in fact, work. Finally, I do believe in laughter. Gelotology, the study of laughter and humor. Okay? So I just want you to take a look at this really, really quickly. So this gentleman just decided to wear a cat mask to feed his cat, or his group of them. And this is what happens. So, It is important, again, to have that kind of video, that kind of little piece. Sometimes it can even just be a photo. All right? So, right now, I want you to do a couple of things. I'm going to go ahead and write this down. Check your discussion area on Blackboard. I'm going to be asking you a few questions about this particular video, and I simply want you to respond to each other. You will be receiving instructions on how we're going to conduct class for our next session. But that's what I want you to do for now for this assignment, to react from the discussion board on Blackboard. Please check your Blackboard. It's all right there. I want to know how you're going to be coping with your stress and how you're going to be coping with this time. Maybe you're doing a great job. And if you are doing a great job and everything's just going great, then you can share with others your coping strategies. If you're struggling, ask questions in Blackboard. Get advice from your friends. Let's help each other out during this crazy time. Okay? Thank you very much, and I will talk to you guys soon.